I mean, what can you tell us about these figures?
Yeah, I think what we've been seeing kind of over the last half year now is we've been seeing higher than expected deaths across the country. And we are seeing kind of more deaths than what you would expect from kind of heart issues. And it kind of concurs with what Chris Whitty and Professor Patrick Vallance has been saying, is that over the course of the pandemic, a lot of people kind of stayed home to protect the NHS. I think the intent probably there was to stay home to stop kind of mixing and infecting each other. But a lot of people kind of stayed home away from the NHS. So what we kind of see now is this big rise in waiting lists. We've got 7 million people kind of on waiting lists. We've got 400,000 who've been on waiting lists for over a year. And the big concern, I suppose, is that we're seeing kind of big increases in waiting lists for people waiting for kind of heart kind of treatment as well, as at 50%. So what we are kind of being borne out in the figures already is that the potential impact of people kind of staying away, not getting treatment through the pandemic, is leading to kind of deaths. I think what Professor Chris Whitty and Patrick Vallance are kind of saying, this is kind of warning people for a future pandemic that, you know, obviously people who stayed away, it could be causing more longer term issues in the NHS and people dying.
Have you ever seen figures like this before, particularly during a winter as we go into the depths of winter?
Well, the concern, I suppose, Anne, is we've been seeing these higher than expected deaths, I say, from most of the half of the year now. So I think the big concern as we go into the winter is we are seeing an uptick in flu this year. We knew from Australia we would expect to see something happening this year when you track what happened in flu. So we are seeing more hospital patients with flu. We probably now at that point where we're starting to see a winter wave of COVID. So that's kind of kicking into the figures at the moment. And we've got planned strikes as well. So, you know, you've got this tsunami of all of the backlog. You've got the kind of the respiratory flu virus and the COVID probably coming back as well. And that's going to add to the pressures. I think, you know, the big concern obviously is people have stayed away. I think that what they were talking about as well is we're probably going to have more cancer deaths in the long term as well. We're not really seeing that in the figures yet. It's more of a long-term impact when you start looking at kind of cancer overall. But we do know, if you just look at in terms of the number of patients that have started treatment or come forward, there are a lot of missing patients in the data that haven't come forward for cancer. So there's a ticking time bomb out there as well for that.
We're very nearly out of time, so just very briefly, I mean, this is tragic for these individual families, but is it too late now? There's the damage already been done when it comes to these missed appointments.
Well, I think if you've got stage 4 cancer, that's going to be a ticking time bomb, and it's going to be very difficult. But there are a lot, you know, there's treatments out there for a lot of different things. I would just encourage people to get forward. We do know that GP surgery kind of closed the doors. You couldn't get face-to-face appointments during the pandemic. That's kind of turning back now. We are getting that. So anybody who's got any issues, I'd encourage them to get forward. But what we are seeing, Stephen, as well, is a lot of people are going private or going to abroad to get treatment. So I think, you know, try and get the treatment if you can.
OK. Jamie Jenkins, good to talk to you this morning.